Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om.
Hey everyone, so happy you can join us for the Love Everyone podcast
with your hosts Govind Das and Rama Chandra Das.
A conversation of love, devotion, and walking the path of Bhakti Yoga.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Love Everyone podcast. This is episode 3, and we are so grateful that you're here listening with us. So, Govindas, how's it going? How you been holding up over there?
Oh, doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. Busy weekend. We did had kirtan Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it was a weekend of chanting the divine name. Friday we were in Encinitas. Saturday was up in Ojai, and then Sunday kirtan here in LA. So it was just the kind of weekend I like, chanting the name.
Oh,
How about you, brother? Did you have a good weekend?
Not a triple kirtan weekend though. So that is the best. That is the best way to go, isn't it?
It is a good way. Good way.
Yeah, just adjusting to the new routine with no Hanuman Chalisa sadhana in the morning. That's always a bit of a shock to the system. For those of you that don't know, we have been we do these 40-day Hanuman Chalisa sadhanas, and they're at 8 a.m. every morning. So we start our day every morning for 40 days with the Hanuman Chalisa. And we've been doing this now since June 2020. So coming up on 5 years. And the space in between those rounds is always a little bit of a trip, don't you think?
What, you been sleeping till like 11 in the morning?
I wish. I want to. The first day I was so excited. I didn't set my alarm and everything, and I was gonna sleep in, and I even like read my book like later than I would normally do in bed at night. And like boom, 6:30, beep, my eyes just wide open, and the dog wants his breakfast. And I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
How about you?
I was able to sleep only because I was so exhausted from late nights, Friday night and Saturday night.
That's right.
And a lot of driving. So I actually slept till about 9 o'clock, which is like so rare. But back on early schedule today. Yeah, yesterday was a holiday, but today the kids back at school. So up early, making lunches, doing daddy duties and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's cool. In a bit of 3 kirtans in a weekend, though, I have to admit I was a little envious when I saw that was happening. And I feel like I'm in a little kirtan desert right now. I don't have kirtan until it's a week until my next kirtan. We have a
painful.
Shivaratri is coming up next.
Yeah, when is Shivaratri? The 25th?
It's the 25th into the 26th. So it's one of those things where everybody likes to argue about whether it's Tuesday or Wednesday. But we're having our Tuesday night celebration.
Where are you guys doing it?
Just a yoga studio here in Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, how about for people that don't know what Shivaratri is? Why don't you tell them?
Yeah. Well, Shivaratri is the great night of Shiva. Maha means great, and Shivaratri means the night of Shiva. And technically, there's a Shivaratri every month, and that's on the new moon, basically. But once a year, there is the great night of Shiva, and that's going to happen next week. It's a great, auspicious time to worship Shiva and to chant. One of my favorite kirtans is this Mahashivaratri, because we chant only to Shiva. And I love that in any case, whenever you get the opportunity to. I love shaking it up, and of course Hanuman and Sita and Ram. These are my my first love, I should say. But there's something about just diving into 2 hours of Om Namah Shivaya.
Mm.
So rich. It's so rich. And I
It's like
remember that
tribal. I feel like chanting to Shiva, there's a tribal element to it. You
100%.
ever you feel that?
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. What do you when
Yeah.
you say tribal, what can you describe that?
I don't know. It's just like Shiva's like the original shaman, you know.
Mm.
Shiva's like the very first hippie in the entire world, right? His long dreadlocks, long beard, lives with the earth. And when I chant to Shiva, there's just, I don't know, something very wild and very just in the
Yeah,
body, like a earth dance on some level.
yeah.
And we had some great Shiva chants this weekend. Actually, we hadn't done Shiva Shiva Shambho in a while. And it's just like that's one of the classics. Nico, our drummer, he was like, let's do Shiva Shambho. He used to be Bhagavan Das's drummer, right? So
That's right. That's where I met Nico, was at a
yeah.
Bhagavan Das Kirtan.
And Bhagavan Das always chanted Shiva 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 Shambho, Mahadeva Shambho.
Uh,
So yeah, what about Shiva Ratri? A lot of people use cannabis and bong, and well, you gonna partake this year?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Currently that's not part of the program over here. How about yourself?
It's a year and almost 30 years every day, and then almost a year and 4 months at this point without it.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
yeah,
I know we
yeah.
both have been talking about that. How you been feeling without it?
I mean, I feel great, you know. I feel great. It definitely is the right call for me right now. I'm definitely like I've been my whole life a pot advocate, in the sense that, it's got benefits. And if you think it's uh just a gateway drug or just something that everyone should avoid, hey, listen, I disagree. I think that for me, it was useful for many years, and I know for many people it can be useful as well. And but just it's not as useful for me anymore.
Mm.
So currently, I will be coming up on I'll get my 1 year token or whatever they
Toke,
say.
toke in,
Token.
toke out, toke out.
Yeah, I'll get my 1 year toke out on let's see when Hanuman Jayanti.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so this year it was when I committed to taking a break was on Hanuman Jayanti.
And I asked, why if you'd partake, many people don't know, but cannabis is like sometimes called Shiva's prasad,
Mm.
right? It's like a gift from Lord Shiva, and many and Shiva. There's an old story about um, Shiva's wife Parvati. Shiva would always love to leave the house and roam through the woods and roam through the mountains, and he would never be at home. And Parvati knew how much Shiva liked cannabis, ganja. So she made him extra strong bhang. Bhang is an edible, essentially. It can be an edible, it can be drunk as well too, but it's like a cannabis edible or drink. And she made him an extra strong one. So he just couldn't leave. He was so stoned, he had to stay at home in the house.
I love that.
But there's
Never heard
many,
that
many
story.
stories about Lord Shiva and Bhang, and his devotees, the sadhus in India, are very commonly seen. Boom, Shiva, with the chillum puffing and
Yeah,
it's
and it's interesting, because cannabis is, highly illegal in India, but yet they don't make any efforts to disrupt the the sadhus with their use of cannabis.
yeah, I
It's,
didn't know that it was illegal. I actually have heard that there are dispensaries in different towns and villages as well too.
oh,
Yeah, I
that's
forgot who was telling me that. Was somebody, some local was telling me that that there are places where you can go get it, where you can actually buy it.
Well, you can definitely the street vendors that sell like the pond and the tobacco products and things like that um, will often, if you wink at them correctly, or I don't know, if you have enough dreadlocks, or
Special tobacco?
if you shake your head enough, then they might give you some little bong packets. And that was part of our retreat. Remember that,
Yeah, you
Govindas?
get those little packets,
Get
those
those little
things.
packets.
No, there. I've heard there are dispensaries, but I don't think they have the same strains that the dispensaries in Seattle and
Oh
Los
my,
Angeles,
oh my God. Oh my God.
and probably not the THC levels either.
Yeah. It's really interesting though, when I this time has been the easiest and the most graceful time that I have been off of cannabis. Throughout the years, it's been like a roller coaster, some days on, some days off, periods here, periods there. But it's been like a real consistent thing my whole life. Since my mom told me when I was 12 years old, she said, marijuana is off limits. And I was like, what's marijuana?
She
So
planted the seed, not
yeah, yeah.
knowing
So
that,
I yeah,
because any
yeah,
kid does exactly what your parents tell you not to do.
exactly. I was like, oh, it's against the rules. It must be fun. So I make this joke to my mom. She hates this, but I tell my mom, I say, Mom, it was you that got me onto weed in the first place. Because of course, then throughout high school and all that stuff and college and everything, there was always this drama around me breaking the rules and
Mm.
me, not telling the truth and et cetera, et cetera. But what I was getting to is how graceful this last almost nearly a year. Hanuman Jayanti's coming up in April, nearly a year of being clean from the cannabis. How easy it's been, and there's one reason that I can account, and I know that this is why. On Hanuman Jayanti, I sang 108 Hanuman Chalisas. And it said that when you chant 108 Hanuman Chalisas, you can ask for a boon, you can ask for a blessing, you can ask a special prayer to Hanuman, and then he will grant this boon in return for your tapasya of doing 108 Hanuman Chalisas. And it is tapasya. It took us 10 or 11 hours. And I said, Hanuman, help me put down the pipe. Help me stop smoking cannabis. And from that moment on, it just, everything shifted because it was out of my hands. It wasn't me anymore trying to stop. It was Hanuman had the whole thing. I had given it over. And this
Mm.
is so much uh, of what, hey, even what we're going to be talking about, I think, a little bit today when we get into our Doha, next Doha for the Hanuman Chalisa. But this idea of asking for divine assistance and surrendering to that higher power. And Hanuman's had it the whole time, I mean, listen, there's a dispensary on every corner in this city, and you smell weed, in almost every parking lot. I mean, there's so much pot in Seattle, Washington.
I'm in Venice Beach right now. I know exactly. I was telling my friend I can't even walk down the street without smelling it.
The
It's
whole
like,
West Coast.
yeah, the whole
It's
West
just like
Coast.
being like wafted
It's,
with there's places in Oregon, like you walk down the street in September because they grow outdoors in Oregon. You walk down the street in any town in Oregon, in the south of Oregon in September during harvest season, you can just smell weed. And I won't lie, I still feel those kind of those pangs, or like I feel those, that desire, or it's habitual really, but I smell it, and or if I see it, or if I even see the sign for the, like I feel myself, I feel my body, you know, kind of going into that moment of craving. But there's just there's no trickle of doubt in my awareness of what I'm actually going to do. Because in the past, when I would have those moments, I'd think, oh, maybe I should go. Maybe I should, maybe I should just go into the dispensary, and just one toke won't hurt me, you know. But then that always just, oh, that just opens the door back up, and now I'm smoking again. But now, when I have those moments, it's just so clear, because it's like, honestly, on one level, like I don't want to disappoint Hanuman.
Mm,
But I also know
yeah,
that Hanuman's the one in control.
yeah, yeah. I got you, bro. For me, a little different. Mine, I noticed and I'm for you, as I said, 30 plus years of really consistent ganja puffing, and I wouldn't be who I am without it. And I know it has tremendous, tremendous benefits. But yet at the same time, I started to notice myself wake up in the morning, and my very first thought was, when can I have my first puff? And
Oh.
I didn't like seeing that attachment.
Hmm.
It was um, something, and seeing that, really clearly seeing that, there was like a feeling like, okay, I'm ready to let go in that sense. And a couple of things, and as well too, I there's this pro surfer that I follow on Instagram, and he's just really cool. He's not like a contest surfer, but he's just does lots of traveling and surfs the best waves in the world, and he's just got a really cool vibe. And I saw on his one of his posts, he said, he was saying, "Oh, it's my 10-15 year anniversary being sober," and he says, I would never be able to have done what I'm doing in my life and all of this success in my life if I were still using, I don't know if he was using cannabis or alcohol or whatever, but substances. And that really, really hit me,
Hmm.
I think, we both share this very similar purpose and mission, me and you, that we have this mission to share the holy name, to serve the holy name, to spread kirtan. And I felt like, well, maybe this ganja is holding me back a little bit, because I'd wake up in the morning and I'd feel a little crunchy every single day, a little tired, and throughout the day, thinking about all of the wasted thoughts about it. I think about all the money I would spend on it, going to the dispensary, $100 a week or something like that. And now, like you said, I don't have even any desire for it. It's amazing how at the right time things just have fallen away. I actually, when I smell it, I enjoy it if somebody's down the street. But, when my friends are puffing, I'm just fine, even sitting right next to them,
Mm.
and not even having any desire. I don't know. I feel really good without it in my life right now. High on life, man. Just, I'm high on life.
That's right. That was definitely the impetus for me too, is that feeling of that attachment, that I felt like there was it the amount of energy that my mind was spending on, thinking about my next toke,
Yeah.
or, or um it was just too much. was just
And
too
now
much.
you're free, right? I feel
No,
free. I feel like completely free. Like
that's right.
nothing has, you know, the
Doesn't have its
power over
doesn't
me.
have its claws in you
Right. The
anymore. I heard,
tentacles wrapped
yeah,
around.
and I heard somebody say this about I can't remember who was saying it, but a friend of mine used to talk about how pot was a seductress.
She's very seductive.
She's very
Heard
seductive.
that too.
And especially because for me, I think I kind of was able to be with it for so much longer than I think I really even wanted to, is because because it's not the kind of thing that's going to kill you.
Yeah.
you know um if you're hooked on alcohol or you're hooked on some hard drugs, it can actually kill you. you know and there's a lot of motivation, to stay clean.
Now, I'm just what came up for me though, and we're talking about it in a certain way, but I don't think we'd be having this conversation, this podcast. We'd be devoted our life to kirtan without it, because
100%.
it does open you to a whole new dimension, a whole new way of living, a whole new possibility of life.
That's
I mean, I couldn't see you in a suit and tie getting ready for your going to the 9 to 5 finance job right now. Can you see that?
I can't see that, and I can't see
No.
you in that outfit either. I mean,
Yeah.
that's been actually the biggest challenge for me, was that the it was so connected to the my creativity,
Mm. Yes. Yes.
and that I would say, many of the songs that I've written, many of the melodies that I've written, many of the ideas that I've had, um, came in a moment when I was under the influence,
Yeah.
and it got very, very intertwined. My concept of me as an artist and me as a creative person, and that practice that practice of smoking pot on a daily basis was very
That,
intertwined. So the first thing that I spent the first few months, and I feel like I'm finally starting to get some of that spark back, but the first few
mm,
months after Hanuman Jayanti, after letting go, there was like we had many conversations about this, you and I, Govindas. It was like uh, it's almost like an apathy, or like I wasn't used to. So it was like, there was one I read something about this because I was looking up the word apathy, and I was looking up this idea, and I was looking up in reference to stopping marijuana, and I read something that said that with heavy use of marijuana, and I started, like I said, when I was 12, is that your body stops producing dopamines because it doesn't need to. It kind of like it says, "Oh, well, we're getting this injection,
mm,
every day. And so why waste the energy on creating this stuff naturally?" And so that the body actually forgets how to do it, in a sense, and has to relearn how to do it. And one of the doomsdayers that I read was saying that, sometimes it never relearns how to do it, and I was like, no, I hope that's not me.
no, it's not.
But
It's not.
anyway, but it feels to be coming back, and that's great. And so I've had some new
Yeah.
melodies come through and things like that. But there was a real long period where that kind of stopped, and that was freaking me out,
Yeah.
to be honest. Did you ever feel like that?
I didn't. And
Mm.
interesting enough, I feel like some of the best melodies I've composed in the, you know, journey have come through in the more recent months and without it. So,
Mm.
but I don't know, I'm not really sure. I was just gonna shift it over to mushrooms and your thoughts about that, but I think Maybe we should get going on the material for today, because that
Yeah,
could open a whole new.
we have definitely started a whole new.
We
Well,
open.
and then we could also talk about the new LSD.
Oh, the new. Has anybody tried the new LSD out there?
What is the new
The
LSD?
new LSD. You got to take your hit every day. It's a daily dosage
At least
of
every day.
every day. Take as much LSD as you want. Could you
Can't
imagine that?
overdose. That's the things you can't overdose on the new LSD
You
either.
got to keep taking it.
What are these guys talking about? What are they going to tell us? Are they going to reveal?
Let's save it. Let's not tell.
Oh,
The new LSD is love, service, and devotion.
oh,
That's the new LSD.
isn't that good? And that's so good. It was almost the name of this podcast.
Yes, we're very close.
Very close. It was a close second, but we ended up on Love Everyone. Is it too late to change? No, I like Love Everyone. Let's stick with that. But the new LSD, actually, that might be a great name for our Bhakti quote. Is the daily dose of LSD.
Let's do it. Let's
And
do it.
the,
The
the,
LSD quote.
the LSD quote, the love, service, and devotion quote. All
Yeah.
right. Hey, yeah, let's dive into it. We're halfway through our hour here, and all we're doing is talking about drugs.
Well, look, when we have a guru like Ram Dass, we can spend half of a podcast talking about this
We
stuff.
could spend, well, all right, we'll come back to it, folks. Don't worry, we will come back to.
You ever, on your yoga retreats, right? Anytime I seem to be at a yoga retreat, the conversation always makes its way towards, psychedelics, ayahuasca, ganja, all these things. And that's when everybody gets really involved in the conversation.
I don't know, not our groups, man.
Not your groups? Oh, man.
Straight edge. We got a bunch of straight edge.
Really?
Oh, yeah, pretty much, man. We got a lot of people in recovery too.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. You guys, you LA hippies,
LSD hippies.
Yeah. No, but for sure, just to put the period on it, and I have to just 100% agree with you that I don't think that we would be here now in this way talking about these things. And I know that pot and mushrooms and the original, the OG LSD, that some of these things really opened up doors for me in terms of just thinking outside the box, and certainly living a life of devotion in the 21st century in Seattle, Washington, being a kirtan wala. That is as far out of the box as you can possibly get. So
Think of your high school friend.
way too late. Not going back in the box,
What
everybody.
happened to him?
What happened? Rama, Chandra, what? Yeah.
Well, maybe we shouldn't call it the new LSD. Maybe it should be called the OG LSD, because really it is.
Yeah,
The
maybe
OG
you're right.
LSD quote.
The OG LSD quote. LSD, the original LSD. All right, we are getting so sidetracked here, everybody.
All right, let's do this. Let's
do it.
I will start with our opening invocations. Om Akandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha.
Salutations to the Guru, who revealed to me the supreme truth, which is unfragmented, infinite, timeless divinity, and which pervades the entire universe.
Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha.
Salutations to the Guru, who opened my eyes, which had been blinded by the darkness of ignorance, by applying the divine ointment of self-knowledge.
Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha, Hari Om.
Guru is the creator, sustainer, and the destroyer. Guru is directly the Supreme Spirit, both manifest reality and the Absolute. My reverential salutations to the glorious Guru who resides in the hearts of all beings as the true self.
Bolo Shri Sat Gurudev Bhagwan Ki.
Jai.
Sri 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 Baba Neem Karoli Santa Maharaj Ki.
Jai.
Jai. All right, brother and everybody, we are going to check out the second Doha. Remember, we have these two Dohas that lead us into the body of the Hanuman Chalisa. Second Doha, let's just go over the English. It says, knowing this body to be devoid of intelligence, I recall you, son of the wind. Grant me strength, intelligence, and wisdom, and remove my suffering and shortcomings. Say it one more time. Knowing this body to be devoid of intelligence, I recall you, son of the wind. Grant me strength, intelligence, and wisdom, and remove my suffering and shortcomings. And the Avadi, Buddhi hina tanu jani ke, sumiron pavana kumar, bula buddhi vidya de humohin, harahu kale sabikar, siya, oops, one more time. Buddhi hina tanu jani ke, sumiron pavana kumar, bala buddhi vidya de humohin, harahu kale sabikar. Again, knowing this body to be devoid of intelligence, I recall you, son of the wind. Grant me strength, intelligence, and wisdom, and remove my suffering and shortcomings. Doha number 2. There's a lot there, my brother.
Well, as we said last week, that these two Dohas contain, as many people say, the essence of Hanuman Chalisa. And there is a lot here. The thing that's really standing out for me today is this idea of remembrance. I recall you, son of the wind. Remembrance, which is smaranam, and this word sumiro is a word that is related, is being translated as recall, recalling. This idea of remembering is one of the 9 modes of Bhakti Yoga. And as we've been talking the last few weeks, this is one of the forgetting is the root of all of our problems, all of our suffering, all of our shortcomings. They come from us forgetting who we are. And Tulsidas is giving us such a key prescription here. Remember Hanuman, remember Hanuman, remember Hanuman. So this first part, I think, can be a little confusing too. So let's break that down just a little bit. Knowing this body to be devoid of intelligence. Buddhihina, without buddhi. And I can hear the scientists out there saying the body is so full of intelligence. It has it can two cells come together in a woman's womb and they create an entire body, and we know how to heal ourselves, and our body knows how to digest food and turn oxygen into energy, and all these amazing synapses firing in the brain to put together thoughts and words and concepts and ideas. How can you say that the body is devoid of intelligence? And I think the key here is that the kind of intelligence that we're talking about is spiritual intelligence, is beyond the material. That buddhi, that vidya, that wisdom, that knowingness of our true nature. The body, sure, it has the, physical intelligence to accomplish all those tasks that I just described, like just base, but survival. but the but the higher self knows even that it's beyond the body. And so there's this another moment of surrender here where Tulsidas is saying that I know that my body doesn't have that higher intelligence. And the body, by the way, is also the mind. And the body is even the intellect, that we can do complex algebra and calculus in our mind. We can intellectualize the most dramatic and complex concepts. But this intelligence that Tulsidas is talking about is even beyond that. It's like something that our heart knows, but can't even really be. And when I say our heart, I mean our spiritual heart, the hridayam, not our beating heart in our chest. So when we take the prescription here, we say, I don't know how to do it, but Hanuman, you can show me how. And this again, this brings up all these concepts we talked about last week, humility, surrender, all these things are so difficult for us to come to. And we talked last week. Why would we want to surrender? Why would we want to be humble? How am I going to get anything done? How am I going to get famous? How am I going to get rich? How am I going to impress my friends? And so, and he ends with this ultimately sankalpa, this intention of like, this is the prayer. This is the prayer. Hanuman, grant me the strength and the wisdom. And that granting of the strength and the wisdom, that is the removing of the suffering. Because the root of the suffering is because we don't know who we are. So when we do know and we have the strength to remember in the face of the Maya and the illusion and the billboards and the commercials and all this stuff that the world is trying to tell us, when we have the ability and the strength and the wisdom to kind of rise above all that, then we don't suffer as much, and our shortcomings don't have the same power over us and the same meaning. So that's what I got going for us today. What about you, Govindas? What is this line?
Oh, goodness, there's so much here. Yeah, I in a similar way, that top line, we're identified with the small self. We're identified with this limited sense of beingness when we're identified with our minds and of course our bodies as well too. And that we're when we are identified with that small self, we are powerless. We are, well, the illusion is that we think we're so powerful.
Mm.
But the real power and the real wisdom and the real intelligence is God's intelligence.
Mm.
It's like, I think about Hanuman, like he was able to move mountains and do all of the impossible things he was able to do, like jump over oceans, because he got out of his own way, because it wasn't him doing it. It was Ram coming through him. So in the same way, I realize that I'm identified with this small self, this small mind, which just to have that realization is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then, as Tulsi Das says in the second line, of course, he's asking Hanuman, grant me strength, intelligence, and wisdom, and remove my suffering and shortcomings. So he's going to something greater, something bigger, something higher, something more stronger, something more powerful. He's asking Hanuman for help, which I think is for a human being, unless we've suffered enough, we think we can do it. It's only when life has beat us up enough, or maybe we've been born into a spiritual tradition that, you know, our parents have given us teachings, and we've gotten great teachings along the way as children. But most of us need to get beat down by life to get humbled enough to realize that I'm not the doer. I'm not in control. And that's why we have this saying in our, you know, Ram Bhakti tradition, Ram is the doer. Ram is the doer. Ram is the doer. So Ram does everything. So if we can just humble ourselves enough, and again, that may come through big time challenges in our life. I know for me, that's really where it's all started. I'll speak, you know, just something. Humility started for me. I was a really good athlete as a kid. I was a like star soccer player. But what came with that was a big ego.
Mm.
And I was known and all over, you know, where I lived, and even in states beyond, because I was really good. And I got cocky. And in 7th grade, because I was so cocky, I was treating some kids in the grade younger that were younger than me, probably not the way should have treated them. They told their big brothers. Me and my friends were walking down the street at night, because, you know, back then we'd all hang out it was safe. It felt safe. We'd all hang out at night on the street. And these guys whose bigger brothers we were in 7th grade, their bigger brothers were driving. They pulled the car
Ooh.
over. Hey, who do you think you are, talking to my little brother like that? Popped me in the face. My friends, 3 best friends next to me, scared to death. Like they weren't like, let's go, They just let me get my ass kicked.
Oh
The
no.
other guy, the brother's friend, took out his nunchucks and started spinning his nunchucks around. Thankfully, he didn't use them. But that was a huge turning point in my life that I got and I, being these guys were much older than me, I didn't fight back, and I wasn't a fighter anyway,
Mm.
but it gave me a big time serving of humble pie, as they say it, as it's said. And it really changed the course of my whole life. So life has its way, I guess what I'm saying, of humbling us, however that happens. And for me, it started like that. And it really put me in check, which was, I see as a real blessing now
Mm.
in my life.
Wow.
So, anyways, yeah, this is getting back to this line. We think we can do it all. We think we know it all. We want it all our way until life humbles us and we say, okay, maybe there's a bigger plan, a master plan that's something I can't see. So I'm just going to move myself out of the way, humble myself. And the way I've been feeling it lately is I'm just going to follow the breadcrumbs in my life. Like Maharaj is just putting out breadcrumbs and I'm just going to follow that trail.
Mm.
And I don't know anything. And I'm just going to follow the footsteps, as we talked about last week, of the Guru.
I love what you said about God's intelligence. That's represented here by Son of the Wind, by
Mm.
Hanuman, I think. So in this line, it's like, listen, my body doesn't have intelligence, but let's remember God does. Mhm. So my body doesn't know, even my mind doesn't know, maybe even my intellect doesn't know, but Hanuman does.
Mm.
Hanuman does. So let's remember that. Let's remember that. And so many we can think of Hanuman as outside of ourselves, of course, as something greater and higher, but we also can think of Hanuman as residing in our heart, that's Sat Guru that we talked about last week, that Hanuman is within us, and Hanuman is the one who has that God's intelligence, that deeper wisdom, which is being called vidya and buddhi here, that deeper wisdom. But I think it's just a great way to think about it. G, I love that simplicity of like of God's intelligence. And
Just to
here,
kind of zoom in, like, do you think of Hanuman outside of you, or do you think of Hanuman inside of you?
I think of Hanuman as everywhere.
Yeah.
So the answer is both.
But sometimes you see Hanuman outside of you. You
Yeah,
feel
sometimes I see
Hanuman
Hanuman
working.
as like he is standing behind you at the mountain in his hand and the mace, and you know, uh sometimes I see Hanuman as riding on top of my car in the blizzard, protecting the vehicle or whatever. But when but I also feel that Hanuman, I think that we're all Hanuman. I think the message of Hanuman's part of the message of Hanuman's teachings is that we can access our inner Hanuman. Hanuman has all these superpowers. He can do all these amazing things, but he forgets. And this is our trip. This is human beings' trip. Everybody has superpowers, and we forget. And we have to remember. And so when we do remember, when we recall the Son of the Wind, is that we then tap into those superpowers. So I think the answer to me is both, because I think that Hanuman is in you too. So if Hanuman is just in me, how can Hanuman be in you? Hanuman is in everybody. Hanuman is everywhere. He's inside and he's outside. He's omnipresent. So How about you? Where do you see
Yeah,
Hanuman?
same. I mean, I see Hanuman orchestrating everything externally in my life. So yes, I see him outside. Now, I mean, I don't see him as a monkey, but feel him as an energy, a spiritual, divine spiritual energy orchestrating my life on the external. I mean, sometimes I'll visualize him outside of me. I used to all the time where we lived before our home was burnt down in the Palisades. I used to visualize this giant Hanuman above our home, like 5 stories high, 10 stories high, this massive Hanuman just protecting, and Maharaji just sitting on top of our house, just protecting us and
Hmm.
blessing our home and my children and my wife, my dog, my family. So yes, I would see that, but I feel Hanuman is more of an energy, like
Hmm.
externally, just putting everything in its perfect place. Now it's up to me to surrender to that, right? But I certainly feel that Hanuman on the inside is is steering the whole ship.
Hmm.
And that's my work, is just to keep, again, leap of faith from here to here, surrender into this, into the heart, head to heart. So I'm not fighting that with my mind. I can
Hmm.
surrender into that and let Hanuman guide the whole journey.
Like Krishna guiding
Like
Arjuna's
on the
chariot.
charioteer.
But
Yes.
Hanuman's flying on the flag as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is
Many
cool.
people don't know that
Yeah.
on the chariot, there's a flag on Krishna's chariot, Arjuna's chariot. And there's a flag. And on that flag is an image of Hanuman.
Ah.
That's
Well,
cool.
or even depending on how you think about it, it's Hanuman. Like he's on the flag. He's not just an image, but
He
Hanuman.
is. Yes, he
Yeah.
is
He
on the
is
flag.
on the flag. Yeah. Wow.
But the second line, I think when you were talking, it really hit something, is that it's Tulsi Das is saying there is a being that if you surrender to, and I know bringing up that can bring up so much. If you surrender to this being, well, really that's surrendering, if you look at it, to this place in your heart, right? If you want to not be dogmatic at all, it lives inside of you. If you can surrender to this place, this reminds me of a Krishna Das quote, that it's a part of you, it's a name of your true self,
I
right?
love that.
It's one of the names, the infinite names that you could call your true self. If you can surrender to that part of you, you will be granted strength, intelligence, and the removal of your suffering and shortcomings.
Mm.
So there is this being that, when we recall that higher intelligence that we can surrender into, we ask for help, and we can be blessed with all of these great qualities. And
Jai Hanuman.
Jai Hanuman, Jai
Yeah.
Hanuman.
This is a rich one.
I think we're always trying to break it down. We don't want to be dogmatic about this stuff. We want to
No.
be, we want this to be accessible.
And that's why, I always try to bring it back to this idea of the higher self, meaning that, and I think that's really what he's talking about here on one level. On one level, yes, he's talking about there is this being that can do this for you. But on another level, and I think that's the beauty of this path and this spiritual path, is that it you have so many options for like what works with your personality. If your personality can handle the being outside that's shaped like a monkey that carries maces and mountains.
My being can handle that. How about you?
Yeah, for 100%. But we can also, but maybe it's like, no, I feel much more comfortable thinking of Hanuman as an archetype, Hanuman as like that higher self within me that keeps forgetting itself, and and uh and that and that it's that inner wisdom. Either way, and for me it's both, honestly. For me it's both. Like I embrace both those concepts in the sense that I'm okay, uh like I said, throwing myself on the ground in a dirty ashram in India in front of a beautiful Hanuman Murti and feeling myself surrender to that carved stone as a form of Hanuman. But I'm also equally comfortable thinking of Hanuman as an archetype representing my higher wisdom, my higher self, my God intelligence. And either way, we have to find the path towards surrendering to that and saying, no, that's what I want to guide my life, not my body, not my mind, not my intellect. I don't want my ego in control. I don't want my senses in control. I don't want my body's cravings to be in control. And this takes us full circle back to how Hanuman on Hanuman Jayanti last year gave me the boon that I could stop smoking. Was that my senses, my body, my cravings, my habits, all those kinds of things, they want one thing, but my higher self wanted something else, wanted to be free from those attachments. And I had to recall Hanuman and say, Hanuman, I know that you know what I really want, and you can give me that strength that it's going to take for me to accomplish this task. And that's so that's that it's the higher self, or it's
But
Hanuman.
even think about this line right here, that grant me, um, you know, what is the
Strength.
remove my suffering and
Mm,
shortcomings. That there was suffering in relation to your ganja smoking. Me too. It felt for me like a shortcoming in my life, like maybe I wasn't really living up to who I could truly be,
exactly.
especially when I heard that quote from that surfer that I was talking about,
Mm.
that I want to live at my highest potential. And maybe I'm not, maybe there's shortcomings. So Hanuman at work in your life, in my life, has helped you to overcome the suffering and the shortcomings. And you recalled him. Now, for me, I didn't consciously offer this to Hanuman, but you, in your sense, you did.
Mm.
And it worked, as of
And it
now, at
works.
least.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, listen, it's life is a constantly changing
Yeah,
situation, but it's what
right now.
it's what I need right now, and Hanuman's got my back. So,
Yeah. Well, this is interesting because I think really, this is something I like to share a lot. There's a couple different ways that you can really use this stuff. You can use Hanuman as an archetype that you can model your life after, follow his actions. He clearly shows us how to live as a devotee, as a karma yogi, as a jnana yogi. He shows us all this by his actions, and we can just follow that. And if we do that, our lives will undoubtedly be better. But he also can be related to his God itself. Not to jump ahead, but in the final Doha, Tulsidas says, "O King of gods,"
mm,
that Hanuman is divine, and we can pray to Hanuman. We can ask Hanuman for help. We can ask Hanuman for assistance. We can ask Hanuman to live through us. We can ask Hanuman for the blessings of grace and removing our suffering and our shortcomings. And I know it's hard for some people to think of this, but God has unlimited power to do whatever he or she wants to do. And it's said through time that God hears all and answers all prayers from his devotees. Never is there a prayer that goes, a true, sincere prayer that goes unanswered. And Hanuman can be related to in that sense.
So this leads us really beautifully into I was calling it the wisdom quote, but
How
we're
about the
calling it
LSD quote?
the LSD.
Quote of the day? I mean,
Yeah, well, that's close. But the LSD, the the hit, the hit of the day.
the,
The
the, the hit of the day.
the hit of the day.
LSD hit of the
The
day.
LSD hit of the
You all don't know how long we tried to figure out what we were going to call this nugget of the day type of a thing.
yeah, but I think we're
LSD
all
hit of the
I
day.
think we're on to it. I think we're on to it. So everybody, here's your daily dose. This is a quote from Neem Karoli Baba, our beloved guru. And he said, "It is better to see God in everything than to try and figure it all out." We both took a sigh of relief.
You mean we don't have to try to figure it out?
No, you don't. Apparently you don't. In fact, you probably can't. To me, that's a
You
big part
can't.
of this. You
You can't.
can't.
You can't.
You can't. So,
Why do we try? And it seems like humans, even more and more as the years go by, we're trying to figure it out, but we can't figure it out.
mm. Oh, yeah, the materialistic point of view of like it all being figure outable, is so prevalent, and there's actually this sort of self-help guru, uh, and she has a um, that my wife is really in tune with, and she has a lot of good things to say, but she's more like on a business kind of point of view, and she has this little saying that she loves, and I hear all the time because my wife says it all the time, and it's everything is figure outable,
Mm.
and she means, on a materialistic level, that she means like a problem that you have with your computer, a problem that you have with your staffing, or a problem that you have with your friends, or that all those problems are figure outable, but every time I hear that, I always think, is it really, is everything figure outable? And this question, this quote here, the hit of the day, kind of gives me a hint that maybe it's not,
There's just mystery. Mystery exists. And I love that there's mystery, that there's the unknown. Because in that living in the mystery, life becomes an adventure,
Mm.
a grand adventure. And the phenomena just keep appearing. And I'm just going to just dance through it all. Like I'd like to try to say I could dance through it all.
Yeah.
Not always do I,
Oh
but
my God.
I love the mystery. But my question to you is, see God in everything. Why is it so hard to see God in everything? Why is that so important? And why is it so hard to see that? Any
Which one?
thoughts?
Which question do you want me to
Why
answer?
is it so hard to see God in everything?
Why is it so hard? Well, because I think because we have this preconceived concept of God in our limited perspective. We want to like black and white everything, right? So we want to see good and bad. And so then when we judge things as bad, we think, well, how can that be God? Even to the point where it's like, oh, see God in everyone. And it's like, well, this guy's a total jerk. How am I how is that God? Or we see some thing that we deem as a horrible tragedy. And we say, oh, there's how could there be God in that event or in that situation or that circumstance? But we can see time and time and time again, certainly in our own lives. I know for myself, I have many instances of this where something that felt horrible, like a tragedy or heartbreak or a job ending, or that felt like it was the end of the world. And almost every time that became in the end, like there's all those situations I'm thinking of now in my mind, I think to myself, thank God that that happened that way, because it's brought me here. It's brought me where I am. So how can I judge whether that was a good or a bad situation? I don't know what the divine plan is. And I don't know all the circumstances that have to play out for me to live out my karma, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think the reason why it's so hard to see God in everything is because we're judging everything good and bad. You know, Ram Dass has that beautiful little story that he tells about, like, you know, when you're walking through the woods and you see that tree that's all bent over and hunched over and growing in the wrong direction, you don't think, look at that ugly tree. You think, wow, look at that interesting tree.
Mm.
It's so interesting how nature made it grow like that and do that thing. But then somehow we have the total different relationship when we see that person growing in the different way, or if it's us, you know, especially if it's us, then we see that as some kind of flaw. And so we are constantly doing that game of judgment and good and bad and everything. And so that's why it's so hard. How can we can see God in that beautiful tree that's bending over like that, but can we see God in if we are born and we end up developing scoliosis, which is like a, you know, a version of that bent over tree? Do we see God in our own scoliosis? It's really hard because we feel like a victim. Like, why me? You know, our karma is our dharma, something that Ram Dass talks about a lot too. And I really believe this, that our suffering ends up being the thing that we almost have to offer. I think about my own path and how so many of the challenges and so many of the mental and emotional issues that I have had to overcome, or that I am still continually challenged by, have given me uh, purpose and direction and goals in terms of what I want to share with other people and how I can share with other people. And it's helped me develop compassion for other people and other people's suffering. And it's opened the door for me to be able to use my stories and my, you know, and so uh, maybe I'm getting a little off track here, but God is in everything, has no morality. God is in everything, has no judgment, God in everything. And we are, that's so far from we're consumed with morality and judgment as human beings, aren't we?
Yeah. I mean, I think my feeling is we've been indoctrinated into materialism in the Western culture. I think a little bit different in the East, but especially in our modern day Western culture. We have been given Maya colored sunglasses by our parents, sunglasses that lenses are colored with Maya, and say, put these on. Put these on. Wear Maya colored sunglasses, and this is the way to live through this world. Meaning only believing what you see in the world is real. And try to figure everything out in that. But then we come across a Siddha like Neem Karoli Baba, who did enough polishing of the mirror or practices or just the blessing of him being a bodhisattva from previous lives and incarnating just to help people in this life. Who knows how it came about? But here's a being like Maharaji who had no Maya lenses on, just clear. And he's giving us the true knowledge and the true wisdom. See God in everything. Because without wearing Maya colored lenses on your sunglasses, God is in everything. As every single spiritual tradition has told, that God is omnipresent. Let go of the judging mind, and you will see that God's presence is in everyone and everything. And this is a very simple way to live. I remember Sham Das telling me many years ago in India, he said, Govind Das, if you want to live a peaceful life, you just need to simplify. And I think this teaching is the ultimate simplification, is to just see God in everything, in everyone, everywhere. There's some English mantras I say to myself almost every single day. God puts me in the perfect place, at the perfect time, in the perfect moment, always and in all ways. So that means wherever I go, God's putting me there. Always and in all ways, everywhere. There is nowhere that I am not being put by God, no matter what it looks from my judging mind. And then the second is that there are no mistakes. From that place of no Maya colored lenses on, there are no mistakes. God is in everything, even the scoliosis, even as Maharaji said to Ram Das when there was this massive earthquake, I think in Bhutan, he says, and Ram Das felt like he had to go help. And Maharaji said, Ram Das, don't you see? It's all perfect. Right? So I always love to say to myself, there are no mistakes. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should, according to the divine master cosmic plan. Everything. And my life path is training myself. These old samskaras of fear and worry and doubt, and that everything is wrong, to surrender into basically Maharaji's teaching. Don't you see everything is perfect? Just see God in everything. Don't try to figure it out. Don't judge it. Don't doubt it. Just God is with you everywhere. And this is a very non-dualistic approach, right? This is Vedanta in its truest form, I believe. So it shows, I think, us the level of which and where Maharaji, his vantage point was. And I think these teachings ultimately can just help us so much, just unwind the knots and knots and knots within us of our suffering.
That's great that you said that, because remember when we read this quote just a minute ago, both of us was like, ah, you
We
know, it's
soul
it's
side.
it's such a sigh of relief, like to get that kind, because I feel like those Maya colored sunglasses, are designed to make you think you can figure it out. Do you know? And
It's like a
and
game, right? It's like a game. The whole
figure it
thing.
all out. You can fix everything. You can fix politics, you can fix your life, you can fix your friends, you can fix your relationship, you can fix all these things, everything's figure outable.
But isn't this take us back to the beginning from that place we think we know?
Yeah,
And
right.
then, but this is the exact thing, buddhihina.
We don't
When he's
know.
void, this body is devoid of intelligence. I don't think he's meaning this
Yeah,
so much as
yeah,
this individual form.
yeah.
And so we got to let go of that, thinking that we know and saying we know nothing, but just see God in everything.
Who is that in Hogan's Heroes? I know nothing. Remember that? Do you remember that?
I never got into Hogan's
No,
here.
no. Okay, well, I think there was Colonel Klink, and he was the big guy. But then there was I can't remember, but he was like the second in charge, and he was sort of just a soldier. The whole story is that Hogan is in this or not concentration camp, but at a prisoner of war in Germany in World War II. And then there was always this guy who was kind of like on both sides. He was always helping Hogan and his American crew, but then of course he was beholden to his boss, who was the colonel, who was the German colonel. So he was always caught in the middle between all these situations, and they would always turn to him and they'd say, "Well, what do you think?" And he'd say, "I know nothing." It was like all he ever said. I know nothing. And then when I look back at it now with what I know about spirituality, I'm like, this guy, he knows everything.
That's it.
And of
Can I
course he
share
did.
maybe
He
and
always knew. He always
maybe this
knew.
finish it up?
Okay.
We both share a very common friend who's a part of our morning chalisas. His name is Greg Warnick. And he's
Mm,
been, since my home burning down, he's been a real mentor. And I'm thinking about this as well, too. For me, I love hanging out with my elders.
mhm.
And that's a big part of this whole path. And he set up this Kirtan benefit fundraiser for us the other day and down in Encinitas. And he's just been, he said to me that one of the first days of the pandemic, he said, Govindas, loss comes in all shapes and sizes for human beings, and no one is immune to it. And this is just one of those things that you will have to just be with and experience. It's a part of your karma. Well, anyways, he's just said so many incredibly wise things. And I was just showering him with love the other day and gratitude. And I said, "You are so wise." And he says, "Govindas, I've been around the block in my 80 years. I've been around the block. And if I could share one thing with you, And one thing only, he says, the only thing that I know is that I don't know.
Hmm.
And this is a prescription on how to live. The only thing I really know is that I don't know. Buddhihina. So I'm going to recall Hanumanji.
All right, brother. Well, thank
Yeah.
you. Ah, let's finish out, everybody. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu.
May all beings, including ourselves, be happy, be free, be well, and be free from suffering. May all of my thoughts, may all of my words, and may all of my actions in some way contribute to that happiness, that well-being, and that freedom from suffering for all, including ourselves, including ourselves, including ourselves.
Love everyone, serve everyone, feed everyone, and remember God.
Bolo Shri Satgurudev Bhagwan ki.
Jai,
Pavana Sutta Hanuman ki.
Jai,
Ankatamochan Hanuman ki.
Jai,
Jai Jai Siaram, Jai Jai Hanuman ki.
Jai.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, brother. I love you so much. It's such a
Love you
gift
too.
to be together and have this time. And something I've been thinking about, this podcast is centered around the things that I think we both want to focus on. And so many of us out there, it's like this online satsang centered around Hanuman, Maharaji, Bhakti Yoga, the saints, the teachings of the saints, Dharma, and just a good way of living. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. We love you guys. And we'll see you soon.
See you next time. Ram Ram.